As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
There's no crying in baseball!
I ate his liver with some fava beans. A nice Chianti.
That was totally wicked!
If I can change, and you can change, everybody can change!
And welcome to another episode of Your Next Favorite Movie. I'm your host, Josh G. And today we are celebrating Pride Month, so, well, we have a member of that community, so let's welcome Chris to the show.
Yes, because I represent the entire community. Thank you, Josh.
I said a member.
And as someone who represents the community, we appreciate your allyship.
A member of the council.
Here, here, council. Here, here.
And the guy who chose the movie for this poll that won for our Pride Month. Please welcome Chad.
Hi. Yeah. Send the applause, yes.
Yeah, because as we said on the last episode, I'm pretty sure this is the film that single-handedly won the poll and not so much The Road. Although it was an interesting thing to look at, so that's definitely worth a watch.
It's definitely, when you compare both movies, oh man, it's a completely, totally difference of worlds to discuss.
Yep, and Chad, I remember you saying when you picked it that it turns out this kind of works as both, and you're right. This works as Father's Day and Pride Month pick. And we're going back to 1996 and going to talk about The Birdcage.
Do-do-do. Or better yet, it should be We Are Family. So just take us into South Beach, Florida, or a.k.a. Miami.
Right.
Where
So,
we
Chad,
begin.
what made you pick The Birdcage, Chad? Let's start with that.
I mean, honestly, it was just one of those things that I wasn't sure if we were going to do two movies or not. So I thought, well, I'll just pick something that has both elements in it of, father and son relationship, or father and child, and is also, something that, I would say is generally positive, as far as an LGBT plus film. So yeah, that's where, and it's also just a funny, hilarious movie that stuck with me over the years. So I remember seeing it when I was a kid. I don't think I went to the theaters yet. I know Chris saw it in the theaters, but I saw it when Chris bought it on VHS when it came out, and it was just hilarious. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, and as we talked about, this would be my first viewing, so I caught it last weekend for the first time. So
I'm surprised it is the first time you've seen it. I would have thought you would have watched it with us at some point along the line.
I remember you having it on VHS, but no, I remember you having this. I remember you having Tu Wong Fu. I never ever watched that. The only one I ever really watched, Chris, was your pick, which was Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yeah,
So
that's the only one I can remember. I think you actually watched. Yeah, many years ago, though, so...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, not to mention, Chris also had... our uncle had sent us... I think it was Tu Wong Fu. No, maybe it was Priscilla. I can't remember. He sent us two movies. He sent us Priscilla, I think, and the other one was Philadelphia with Tom Hanks in it.
Yeah, I remember
so
those.
That was like another
those
really
being...
big, important film.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you haven't seen Philadelphia, you should watch it.
It's been a long time, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I almost went with that. It was on the short list.
Yeah, actually, I had toyed with that one too, but at the last minute, I thought, well, I've got The Road, which is kind of depressing, and I didn't want to follow that up with,
That's what I was gonna say. Oh my god,
another
not do that.
whopper of a film. So I decided to kind of do the opposite and, do something really that had lots of laughs and was lighthearted.
So, Chris, I want to ask you this. You picked Priscilla. Had Chad not picked The Birdcage, would you have picked The Birdcage, or were you going Priscilla the whole time?
No, I was going with Priscilla the whole time, because you know what? I wasn't really thinking, of The Birdcage right then and there, because I had 9 Months as my other pick, and that had Robin Williams in it, so I just figured, two big comedies, this should prove to be a pretty big maybe hit with the listeners and stuff, but I do think The Birdcage definitely is what got a lot of people interested, and you can see that even with the moment we announced it on the poll. I think got a lot of response, and even after that, up to now, when we were sitting there telling people to give us their thoughts for tonight, a lot of people responded. So, absolutely, the Birdcage I think has proven to be a classic through these years now. So, there's no best casting ever too for a
the
movie
casting
like
in this movie is amazing.
And the thing is, like, for me, I will say, I remember seeing this one in the theaters. I remember, actually, Mom was the one who, because I had never even heard of it leading into it. So it wasn't anything that I was just like, hey, let's go see the Birdcage or anything. Mom wanted to go see a movie. And she was like, hey, let's go see this movie called The Birdcage. I had no idea what it was about. I had no idea who was in it. And so, when the movie played and all that stuff and we made it through, like, I was just stunned. To me, it was pretty revelatory, especially for a young kid like me who knew I was different, but seeing that, there was this gay couple in there who were also older, but they end up also raising a kid, and you just didn't see that really back then in movie. Like, it's today is completely different than back then, and you could definitely tell there's some things they also kind of, touch topic on, some of the politics of the time, don't ask, don't tell being a big one. And that's kind of a theme in this movie as well. When, with what Val does with his father and stuff like that. So it was a big one for me. It really meant a lot. So I don't know. I was appreciative that Mom had took me to it. So
have either of you seen the original that this is based off, the French one, La Cage?
I've only seen, I think I've only, La Cage aux Folles. Yeah. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but I want to see the whole thing. From what I saw a little bit, like the little bit of that I did see. At first, I thought like the performances were a little stiff, but I think that was a long time ago. It was many years ago too when I saw some clips from it. So I think it's time to revisit that. But I know they made 2 more sequels to that one too.
Oh wow!
France.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's 3 of them.
Yeah, I haven't seen the La Cage aux Folles. I mean,
Nor
I've
the
seen it at
stage
work.
play, 'cause I know there's a musical.
I've seen we've had the movie circulating at work, but I just never thought to pick it up. I don't know. I figure,
And Criterion has it released in the first movie at least.
All right, so let's get into this one first. Let's give us the scores. Gives us a Rotten Tomato critic score of 82% and an audience score of 81%. So people are pretty much
that
aligned
score
on this.
Should be higher. Just saying, that score should be higher.
82 and 81. Chris is still unhappy. Okay, they're decent scores. Okay.
Should have been like up there in the 90s.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yep.
I mean, how can you hate this movie?
I know you want to choke those kind of critics.
That's my question.
What the hell's wrong
Answer
with
that
you?
below, you guys. How can you hate this movie? Well, I mean, I can think of at least one character that people probably hate, but
Yes.
we'll get there. We'll get into that. First, this movie comes with a budget of $31 million. Did anybody look up the box office?
I remember seeing it briefly. I know it was like over. I think it was over 100 million, at least over 100 million. I think.
Chad, give us a
Worldwide
guess.
total.
I'm with the cast and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say it was probably up there close to 100.
185.
Oh
This
wow!
movie was a huge hit.
Yeah, made back its budget and then some.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I gotta tell you, looking this up, we're gonna get right into our who could have been who. It's not much, but boy, it almost was a different movie. I don't know if you guys looked this up or not.
No, I haven't. No.
So originally, Robin Williams was going to play the role of Albert, which would have been more typical Robin Williams, actually.
I think so too. Yeah.
So I'm glad it didn't work out. But Steve Martin was going to play Armand.
What?
Oh my god! Can you imagine Robin Williams and Steve Martin as a couple?
Oh man, I just can't imagine anybody but Nathan Lane playing the part of Albert though, because he did such an amazing job playing Albert.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Robin Williams, could pull that off, but it would have been different. And I don't know that I would have liked it as much.
Yeah.
As weird as it is to say for a movie like this, I feel like Robin Williams playing the straight man for this movie.
Well,
Pun
notice that
intended,
his
pun not
role.
intended. I don't know.
Well, notice
But
that his role too was a little more subdued. Like the energy was,
Exactly.
compared to a regular Robin Williams performance, which was the brilliance of his role in this movie,
Right.
because it was just as funny as any of his other comedies. But him as Albert, I feel like that would have just went way overboard in a way. No offense
Probably.
to him or anything like that. But Nathan Lane just kind of had that right balance of, empathy and comedy, I guess you could say, to really make this character full-fleshed.
Agreed.
So, luckily for all of us, Steve Martin dropped out because he wanted to go film Sergeant Bilko. I think I read that he regrets that now, but luckily it worked out for everyone else. Because
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it. And actually, I will probably admit I've never heard of Sergeant Bilko.
oh, come on, there's no way. I'm pretty sure we saw previews of it when we were like.
Oh, I'm sure we did.
I don't know
I just don't remember anything about it.
But the Birdcage has become such a cult icon classic film. I can see why one would be like, why did I skip out on that one?
Yeah.
And the other one's a little bit smaller. Hank Azaria was originally just going to be the hairdresser, and they were going to bring in David Allen Greer to be the butler. And then they just kind of combined the roles. So, yeah.
Well, David Allen Greer would have been great too.
That would have been hilarious.
He would have done really well, even if this was just Agador of sorts, but in his own way. But Hank Azaria was
amazing in this.
He was. Like,
I love
he
his
was
character.
He was like smaller role, but shit.
He was probably like the standout character for me. I mean, for me anyway, he was probably like the standout character. I mean, for background supporting character anyway.
Yeah, and his performance got acclaimed anyway. I think he even got nominated for some of the smaller awards out there during that time for a supporting role, of course.
Yes, Hank Azaria, every scene he's in, he steals the scene. There's no doubt. A lot of people give the MVP to him just because, I know it's a small part. But, man, it's hard for me not to just go Nathan Lane with everything he does in this.
Yeah.
Holy jeez. Yeah. He was incredible for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect to like it as much as I did.
Well, I was going to say, for the first time seeing
I'm glad
this,
you liked it, Josh. That's really
nice. Like, what was the first thoughts that came in your head with first seeing that? And now that you have seen it, was it just something you're like, holy shit, how did I miss this?
Yeah, I knew being Robin Williams. I don't know why I never watched it because I've always liked Robin Williams. So there was really no reason for me not to watch it. But yeah, this movie was hilarious. There are some characters to not like. So we're gonna get into that.
Well, it also only goes to show that they did their job. It wasn't like their characters were because of poor acting. It was just because their characters were performed well. And so they did their job with making you feel like, okay, I don't like you. The way that you're doing this and the way that you're setting this up.
Okay, I can agree. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about Val right now. He is a manipulative piece of shit as a son. Come on.
And in case people don't know, Val is the son for Armand and Albert, Nathan Lane and Robin Williams.
He's their 20-year-old son.
He's their 20-year-old son in college. He comes home and he's like, yo, I'm getting married. And he's getting married to a young girl, Callista Flockhart, played by Callista
Who's
Flockhart.
just shy of 18.
Yes. That's right.
That was another thing. She's not even 18. I was like, I'd probably like, you know what? Hold off on marriage. Just a couple years for me.
You would think.
You're 17 years old, girl. You're not even 18. Because I even went back and put on subtitles to make sure I heard that's what he said. Gene Hackman's character, Kevin Keeley, said that. I was like, not even 18. I realized they're not that far apart in age. But man, that's young to go getting married.
But we know he comes home, right? So he comes home, he tells his dad he's getting married. But it's not until just maybe a little bit later he's like, oh, by the way, this girl I'm marrying is the daughter of a senator, a Republican senator. On top of that, conservative, and he's got like this popular talk show. That's what is it called, like Chad?
It's like the Coalition for Social and Moral Order or something like that.
Okay. Before we go any further, I want to say this. I was watching this, and I remember I went to college with a guy, and he was a big time right wing guy like that, conservative guy. And he would tell me him and his friends would sit around and they would debate, it seemed like they were arguing on that show, but they were making the same points. And he said that's how they do for real. I remember him saying this. They would almost be yelling at each other, but making the same points. And I'm like, why? That's weird. Why would you do that?
So they're basically they're not even arguing. They're just yelling.
They're not even arguing. They're just
the same point.
I guess they're so passionate. They just get louder and louder when talking about.
Oh, they're one of those assholes. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Well, I mean, that's how they were doing it on that show with that, whatever the one Kevin Keeley was on.
Yeah,
so, and what they were essentially is kind of like the podcast before podcast, but just with the moral, social order thing, conservative order, whatever the case is,
right?
Whatever the crazy delusional thing that they see. Anyway. But we know there's a scandal going on because his partner ends up dying in the bed of a minor black teenage woman.
Prostitute
on top of that.
Yeah, like, Lord, like that. Some of the stuff he says in this.
Yes. Oh, especially when he answers the phone. Right? It's like one word after the other. So he's in the middle of this scandal, so he's trying to hide from the press. And things just get crazy because the kids are bringing the families together, but they don't know what the families are like. They don't tell their parents anything about, who the parents are really so much. They know what it is, but they're just trying to set it up. So Val comes home and he's like, yeah, I'm getting married. And, oh, by the way, daughter of a senator. Oh, and by the way, she's coming in tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, I need you to change the apartment. I need you to change the way you live, who you're with. We have to be conservative too.
I need you to be straight. I mean, yes.
Yeah, I don't know how he was going to get around that because, there's a drag club right downstairs below them. And not to mention the street that they're on is like, people walking around with like hardly any clothes on. Walking around with thongs and everything, men and women both.
Yeah.
So it's like, how are you going to explain this? How are you going to explain this? Supposed conservative family of yours living in this, very
as Calista Flockhart's character says, well, when they bought the place, it was nothing but sand.
It just sort of built up around them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So. That bothered me too with Val, but then again, we wouldn't have a story if that kind of didn't happen that way. And then on the other hand, we're talking 1996 to a degree versus today, where I think something like that would be not necessarily told in the same way. Does that make sense, you guys? Like, I think most people today would, because there's a lot of people don't really care so much about if someone's gay or something like that. We got it, kind of everywhere. But, I understand because there's a lot of conservatives today.
Instance, how would Ted Cruz handle something like that,
But, I don't know. I just, like, he's 20. He's naive in a way. He's thinking about how can I impress the in-laws but his parents, Robin Williams and all this, like they want him to be happy, so they're doing what they can to love their kid, and I get that to an extent, but on the other hand, that's also the beauty of the story, is basically saying this is just who we are, and this is our family, and that's the crux
of the story.
Yeah, and then eventually that's all accepted there at the end, regardless of politics. So. Yeah, Val is irritating with setting that up at first, but that's where we as the viewer sit there and go, but, we get irritated, but on the other hand, it makes for a good story as everything progresses.
But he's doing it every step of the way. Like they brought in...
Don't add, subtract.
And then when Robin Williams decides to keep Albert in, when Armand decides to keep Albert in, he does it again. No, we're not doing this. You can't do this. And I'm like, oh my god, dude. Like he's bringing him in as an uncle. I mean, it can, the story can work that way.
Oh my
he's
god,
like, no,
poor
no.
Albert. Poor Albert, man. Like, definitely trying to change him in every way they can. You know, just nothing is working.
Yeah, but Chris, tell Josh your their theory that you heard about the relationship between Albert and Armand.
Yeah, okay. So many years ago, when I was taking this college course for sociology, the instructor had us watch the movie. And so one of the things she was bringing up was, you know, pay attention to how Albert seems like he's always suspicious of Armand seeing someone else. Maybe that gives you the clue that Armand was never really 100% faithful to Albert at one point. Hence maybe why he hooked up with Catherine 20 years ago prior and had Val. So maybe there was that moment in time that he, you know, him and Albert were probably either on the rocks or what was going on there, and he fooled around. So maybe that's something, because you notice that Albert's like, no, I'll come along. You're not going to drop me off at the cafe. I'll be there too. And he wanted to be in that office. And, you know, and the more that, the longer that Armand stayed in that office, the more, you know, kind of irritated he became with having to wait. Because he was just kept thinking, like, what if Armand is fooling around?
It's funny because I know, like, when I was younger and watched the movie, I used to think that Albert was being unreasonable. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, Albert's like, oh, everybody hates me. Everybody doesn't love me, you know. But I can kind of, like, I understand his point now. And when you see the way that, you know, like, that Val wants to get rid of him because he's obvious or whatever, you know, that's hurtful. And then, you know, with this idea that, you know, like, Armand was never faithful to him, potentially, possibly, like, that would explain why
a lot of
Albert
insecurities
is very insecure about who he is. And, you know, so yeah, that's the other sort of brilliance I think of the movie, is how layered it is that way, because they don't really tell you everything. Like, you sort of just have to, you know, find the pieces yourself in some way.
Right, because I mean, Armand tells the story of the night at the club, basically getting drunk and saying, oh, what the hell, I'll give it a shot. And it ended up in a pregnancy on that one night stand.
Yep. And he did it 3 times or something like that, he said?
2 times an hour and 15 minutes, yes.
Yeah.
From 2:30 to 3:45. He did know the details really well after 20 years. But I took that as it was the one and only time he did that. And I don't know if him and Albert were together at that point. I mean, did they say that? Because I didn't catch that.
That's something that they never addressed in terms of how long they were together. But I think in the movie, you have the sense that they've been together for a long time. And
well, especially for Val to refer to Albert as his mother.
Yeah.
Like, but you kind of get the sense that at least he's been in Val.
He's been there since the beginning.
For a very long time.
And then when he was flipping through the picture book, there were pictures of Val as a baby. And he knew Val as a baby. So, I don't know. Like, I can understand the theory. Not saying that it actually happened, but I think
it's a damn good theory, though.
But I do think it's a good theory. A lot
about Albert's personality and his, you know, and his motivations, I suppose.
It could be true, but I guess because of the fact that when Val first approached Armand about this, he says, it took me a long time to know who I am, and I learned it 20 years ago. So it almost took that one instance with her for him to realize who he truly was as a person. And I was taking it as he met Albert like right after that, because you're right, he's definitely been in his life almost his whole life based on those pictures. I agree with that. So I wasn't sure. So
maybe that, and then maybe also that he could have fooled around with guys and have even been with Albert, but he just never also had that opportunity to really figure out, like, well, am I really just gay? Maybe he had his own insecurities at that time as well. And then it just kind of led into that opportunity because it presented itself. And he had some liquid courage in order to do that. So, but I don't, to me, it also just kind of, like Chaz said, it kind of explains a little bit too of Albert's personality around Armand, you know, making sure he's always trying to be attractive to Armand.
Yeah,
And
because he
you
talks
keep
about
him
all
there
his struggles of losing the
losing
weight
weights.
and
Yep.
everything, and Armand
Uh,
not even really acknowledging it.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's
he
been
said
doing that for a long time too.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know he says he lost and gained 100 pounds over the last year. I was like, holy jeez, that's a big
You're between
fluctuation
a
in a
4
year.
and a 16.
That's right, a 4 and a
Yeah.
16, a 16 to a 4 or something like that. And he's like, and you haven't even said one hint, one word of encouragement, not even one hint. Yeah. Oh, and we'll get to that in a minute, but it's just interesting to talk about like a little bit of the layers behind this movie because I was like, you know, my sociology teacher brought up a good point, and I just didn't even think about it back then. You know.
Yeah.
I could definitely use seeing. I mean, Chris, I want to ask you, and Chad, I guess you can go too. But since you saw it in theaters, did you look at Val like this as a child? Because I saw some people saying that as a kid they didn't really pick up on how manipulative Val was being to his
Oh,
dad.
absolutely not. No. Because I mean, this is '96, so
Right.
this was what I was maybe
12 or 13,
12,
depending on
13
what,
at the
what
time.
month it came out. Yeah.
I think it was like December or
Oh,
something like that. I
okay.
think it was later in the year
Yeah,
because
so it would have been 13.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think they were trying to push it for award season, which is understandable because I know it got one Oscar nomination. I'm like, it should have had more. um, but no, I wasn't even thinking that at the time. I just remember thinking, wow, this is amazing to see. Um, basically, this family be a family because it was just something that again you didn't see back then. You didn't see a whole lot of that on TV or in movies. Most of the stuff that came out back then too were it had gay people dying basically. Like we were talking about Philadelphia before recording this.
Yeah, gay people dying, gay people
People dying.
cross-dressing, gay
Yeah,
people being
and
crazy, gay
it
people
was
being drug addicts. Like, yeah, you didn't really see like
it
the
was not really
family
so
thing.
much of a positive outlook, you know. So for me, this was just kind of a big change, and I really appreciated it. It was just I was looking more on the optimistic side at that time. I was just thinking, this is funny, this is hilarious.
Now
Good
now
movie.
that it is, like especially like Robin Wood. Also, the time in this movie. They're the day of that they're coming, and they have like 5 hours, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, they're not doing all this getting around South Beach in this time because we see the traffic in certain scenes, but they're
Right.
going.
And
They're
especially
going
from
from
the
here.
beginning. Even in the
Exactly.
beginning of that movie, that night, you know, just as it leads, and you're like, okay, that, and you know what it kind of reminded me of in a way is if you were to go to maybe any popular tourist beach area, and at night, you know, it's going to be busy traffic wise, and it kind of reminded me of some of the vacations in Orlando that we had before. And you remember the traffic as well in that area when you would be driving like those 2-lane roads, those main roads, like that was crazy. So that's what it reminded me of.
So, get into, I guess we'll talk about Robin Williams trying to teach Albert how to be a man. what were some of your favorite things?
Oh, that's a loaded one because there
that
were
is loaded.
so many. Um, one of the things I will say is I love that the beginning how it sets up. You got this kind of long camera take, if you will, but the way that they kind of make it seamless in terms of the transition. Like you got that camera going over the beach, you got Sister Sledge playing over the credits, and it just leads up to that road. The camera goes through all those people and the traffic, crosses over, you go into the club, and you see Robin going like just different places, checking on different places in the club and all that stuff. But then of course, I don't know, just beautiful work. But then of course there's the beginning of the first time that we see Albert, or AKA Starrina. who is the headliner of this club's headliner drag queen, and the interaction, and that we get Hank Azaria as well for the first time. This was just such great things, and Chad and I, we quote this movie quite a bit actually. And especially the beginning, you know, where Albert's kind of having his tiff, if you will, and he's like, Victoria Page will not dance the dance of the veils or something like that, or the red shoes. And he's like, oh, I know, honey, but it's okay. And he's like, no, Victoria Page died, or is dead. And it's like, you know why she died? Because she died weeping for her man. And then she's like, honey, you look haggard. Have you eaten anything? And then, you know, you got Armand coming up there because time is crunching for the Starina to get on the stage. And then, like, that whole back and forth was great. Him busting through the wall or through the door. And he's like,
come on, Albert, what's up, baby?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, you know, just screaming. And then suddenly it tempers down because you got that high energy and it goes up and down in this scene. So, you know, I love where he's like, don't give me that contentious tone. And he's like, don't give me that tone. What tone? That contentious tone. The one where you think you know everything because you're a man and I know nothing because I'm a woman. And he's like, you're not a woman. Oh, you bastard. And he throws a shoe. And then him sitting there going like, my weight has changed. You've not given me a hint of encouragement. And he's like, then I saw a bottle of red wine chilling in the fridge and I only drink white.
Switch it, white wine. He only drinks red, yeah.
That's right.
He's like, I only drink red, and so do you. And he's like, I drink red because red has tannins. Or I drink white because red has tannins, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's like, tannins?
Oh, man. So good. I think of that.
It's a really good
whole
scene,
beginning scene. And I love where it's like, I would, if it wasn't for the Purin tablets, I don't think I could go on.
Tablets.
But I love that Agador is like, don't worry, it's aspirin with the A and the S scraped off. And Robin was like, oh my God, you're a genius. I know.
That's hilarious because, like, Albert's just like, if it wasn't for the Purin tablets, I don't think I could go on. Aspirin.
Aspirin is the lifeblood, Chad.
Knew what?
The aspirin is his lifeblood. That's what
It is. Apparently.
It's his blood thinner. It helps prevent blood clots.
And he just thinks he's like, one of those old school Hollywood classic stars that's
he was definitely having a Gloria Swanson moment in there.
Yeah.
Actually, several Gloria Swanson moments, I think.
Or maybe even a Judy Garland kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because she was addicted to all those.
Yeah, it is funny that Armand basically has to threaten to put someone else on just to get him to finally commit to doing
ego.
it.
It's the ego, yeah. He's got that ego that's got to be fed.
The number's almost done. Should I send in Carmen? Yes. Get Carmen right. No, not Carmen. The people who come to see Starina. And I will give them Starina.
Well, it's funny because, Armand definitely knew that sending Carmen on would change Albert's tune.
Yeah. And that tells you
he
how
knew what to do.
their
He knew what to
relationship is. Oh man, but I don't know. I think of that beginning, and then of course I think of the dinner scene towards as things were building up for that, and how they progressed as well. So those are the memorable things for me.
Oh, I think I like that when he's taking him out to lunch, and he keeps putting the pinky up, and he can't get that pinky down.
Goddamn pinky down.
Yes,
Don't put little dots of mustard. Men's smear. Pierce the toast. He was like going really hard on that piece of bread. Like he couldn't do it.
He's like, I just have to remember that I can always get more toast.
And then the John Wayne walk.
I was going to bring up the John Wayne walk.
The John Wayne, like in a way, it was reminiscent of John Wayne, but it totally was not even John Wayne.
Oh, but how'd you like his hat?
Yeah,
in that character,
that damn sun gardening hat.
I love Armand's response though, because he says something like, "You nailed it. I just didn't know John Wayne walked that way."
He's like, "Actually, it's perfect."
Yeah, that's it.
And
It
then
was
the
like a
handshake.
drunk John Wayne walk or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Oh, but I like the first one. He's like, okay, get up and show me your walk. And he does that.
Oh, yeah.
That just his regular
Feminine
walk.
walk.
And he's like, too
Too
squishy. He's like, let me give you an image. It's cliche, but it's an image. John Wayne. Oh, could you give me someone easier? It's like, oh, come on, but you're a big fan. Oh, man, I like it. Howdy, man.
And then they end up, I guess, in some kind of park or whatever. And he's like, "How about them dolphins? How'd you make it
those dolphins?
But I love when he asks him and he tries to do. He's like, "How'd you feel about the dolphins? Betrayed, bewildered."
Yeah, I was like, that's Josh with his sports talk too. Especially when his Cowboys don't do well. I bet you feel bewildered and betrayed.
God damn it, guys.
But it's funny because like Albert has this really good way, like you see it later on in the dinner scene, like he has this really good way of sort of like playing along and stuff. Because like at the dinner scene, you know, Kevin Keeley was like, "I'm sure you all have heard about the scandal with Eli Jackson," and like they all kind of paused because they actually hadn't heard anything about it. But Nathan Lane and Drag playing the mother, he's like, "Oh yes, we thought it was a horrible scandal." And he's like,
"An ugly story."
He's like, "It's an ugly story," and he's like, "Personally, we think he was framed." He's like, "And we for one demand an autopsy." He's like, "Oh my god, that's exactly what Rush Limbaugh said."
Not the company you want to keep.
Oh my god, just that was brilliant away. And I love too, like the one of the scenes I love too was when Armand was directing for the new music he wrote for Starina. So they were doing the practice session, and that guy, the dancer, just kept either making faces or grabbing his cock right there, you know. And she's like, "Ah!" And she's like, "I saw what he did." And she's like, "And he's chewing gum while I'm singing." "You don't chew gum while I'm singing." And so I love when he, of course, famous scene in the movie where Robin goes up to him and the dancer is like, "So I just stand here and do nothing?" He goes, "No, you do a collective of dance. You do, you know," he's like, "You do Martha Graham. You do Fosse, Fosse, Fosse. You do Michael Kidd, Madonna, but you keep it all inside." And then him trying to explain as well, like what the theme of the song is. He's like, you know, she plays your creator, you're her fantasy. When you come to life, she is your fantasy. You fall in love, and he's like, "I don't get it." And she's like, "Try more gum," because he's like, gum helps him think, helps him concentrate. So yeah.
It's not even that hard of a concept to follow. This guy is just dense. Which is kind of what Albert was getting at, because I was like, just because you're 22, young, and hung doesn't mean you're clever or whatever.
Yeah, Albert's definitely right in this sense that they need to get someone else. That guy's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
But he's a good dancer. Because you see some moments where he's dancing in that movie. He's a good dancer. So he is a good talent, at least. But like at the beginning, where he was doing that, like, that Spanish dance with that one queen, and then he like turns her off the stage and he does that bow.
Oh yeah.
And then he just plays or whatever, he twists off the stage.
So what do you guys think about this little National Enquirer side character? Of course, when I first saw him, I'm like, that's the guy from Heavyweights.
Yep, that's right. Oh man, another good movie, by the way.
Oh yeah, he was the camp counselor, right?
Yes.
He's the one that had went there as a kid all those years and still didn't lose weight that they make fun of all the time.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the guy played the, you know, sleazeball journalist really, really well.
Yeah.
You know,
he was the antagonist for the film.
Yeah,
so
he really was. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's very true to life. I mean, it's what.
And it's his damn fault that everything crashing to an end because he took that damn note off the door that Val left for his biological mother, and so she didn't see the note saying not to come up, so she went upstairs anyway, and then like, blew the whole operation.
Well, to be fair, Armand had already called her and told her not to come, and Val picked up the phone and said, "No," he said, "Don't come late or whatever."
Yep.
He changed it up once again. Val being a piece of shit.
Al, it's all the same. Tomato. Although they probably could have done like Albert, Al, and Armand.
Right.
Family starts with A's, right? Oh man.
I don't know what Val is short for. It's
I don't think it's short for anything. I think it's just
something though, like Valentino or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's possible. But I doubt they named him Valentino. I don't see that.
I don't know. It sounds like an Adonis sort of god.
But you know, that guy, he went on to be successful as also a screenwriter. The guy who played Val.
Yeah, he wrote Capote, Chris said.
He wrote Capote. Yeah, so he ended up writing 2 Oscar
which is also really good. If you haven't
screenplays.
seen Capote, you should watch it. It's really good. I can see why Philip Seymour Hoffman won the Oscar for that role.
I've not seen Capote. I did recognize that guy.
We'll talk about it. We'll watch it and we'll talk about it.
I recognize that guy, but looking through his acting credits, I'm like, maybe this one-off episode of Sex and the City that somehow I remember and don't remember.
I remember him from Will and Grace. I think he did a couple episodes or a few episodes of Will and Grace that were pretty funny ones, actually. So that's kind of one of the other ones I remember him from. But I didn't know he wrote Capote. I was surprised. I was like, oh, wow. And then there was another movie that was Oscar nominated that he wrote as well, or co-wrote with, and I can't remember which one it was. But he's apparently done a lot of writing projects and is really good at it. And I think he even married a screenwriter.
Mm-hmm.
So, one person we haven't talked about, and other than Mrs. Keeley, I don't know her first name, of course, played by the great Diane Weist. We haven't talked about her at all in this. So, one thing...
Her name is Louise. He calls her Louise.
That's right.
Okay, yep.
Or maybe he calls her, maybe he calls her Wheezy behind,
I don't know. What do we think about her plan? Like, remember, we've stated Barbara, or she calls her Barbie, her daughter, is not even Barbie Raw. That's right. Oh, that was a great line. I did love that. But her plan to get out of this scandal is a wedding's a great idea. I'm like, your daughter's 17. Why are you pushing for this? I mean, it just goes to show how you play if you're in a political family. I mean, that's what it's showing.
Well, I think for her too, she was looking on, trying to be like, make Kevin. There we go. Her husband.
Kevin, this is a man.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
to not like be so concentrated on his career. I think she wanted him to be a little more involved. Like, oh, wait a minute, our daughter is seeing a guy here. She's very serious about him, so let's focus on the family aspect. Try to bring people together. I think that was her thing too. But I don't think she was this. But she was also seeing that if she could play it in his language, Kevin's language, that this is also good for your image because this is about family and
tradition.
What better way to make your image a little bit more stronger than a wedding? Something that's a loving thing, right? So I think that's what she was kind of doing there in order to bring him more on board.
I agree. I just don't know that I could make that decision to go for that, to be on board with it because of that.
Right. It's so weird because I sit there and I think too, like if it was my kid who was like 17 or even 20, even I'm kind of like, I don't want you to get married that young. But
not yet.
But if you're a public figure, isn't that why you have kids to begin with? So you can shove them out of the spotlight when you need to.
But then on the other hand, I'm like, crap, especially someone who, if your kid's 20, they're going to do what they're going to do, even if you're pretty much against it. So it's kind of like, let them make their own mistakes to a degree. You don't want to assume it. That sounds bad to sit there and go, it's a mistake, but oh well. But at the same time, it's like, well, that is their decision. So whatever happens, happens. And if it turns out to be a great thing, wonderful.
Well, and the other thing is, like, I mean, again, if they did this, we wouldn't have a story. But I mean, her parents didn't approve, and I'm like, well, if I was Val, I just would have been like, okay, we'll wait until you turn 18,
Yeah.
and then we'll just run off and elope.
Yeah, because the thing is, even if they were
mom and dad
against
have to
it, that's
say.
what she would have done.
Yeah.
You know, that she would have done it that way anyway. I think that would have been the decision. Have been like, well, parents are against it, but I'll just wait till I'm 18.
Mm-hmm.
They probably would have run off too, and then if they run off and get married,
But
the parents would still be unhappy with that because they weren't there to see it.
Yeah, the other thing though is, I mean, definitely, when you're older, you kind of realize how young love is very fleeting. So I think that was the reason why everybody around them was telling them, like, oh, you're making a big mistake, you're throwing away your life, and blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, young love also can last, too. I mean, our parents, mine and Chris's parents are proof of that, so.
That's true, too. That's true, too. Our dad was 17, so.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, then. There you go. Yeah. The case in point. There it is. There's the story right there. I didn't realize I knew he was young. I didn't know he was that young. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And, the thing is, like, if they had waited just 2 more months, my dad would have turned 18.
Yeah.
If they had waited 2 more months. But no, they couldn't wait. They decided to get married.
And he actually had to get his parents' permission.
His parents
They
sign.
They had to sign off on it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. All right. So I think Gene Hackman's got a lot of great scenes, but I think one of his greatest scenes is when he's trying to sneak out the window.
Oh, yes.
Which I don't know why. Like, I'm surprised it even worked the first time, because at one point he comes in through that window. Because they're going to surround that whole house. They're not just going to stand at the front door.
I told Chad, I was like, how the frick did they even get in his backyard? Because I'd be like, I don't know if that was me.
Yeah, because, I mean, they were all standing outside of gates to begin with.
And standing literally outside right here in front of my house. I would be calling police on that or something. I would have called police and have security or something out there. But again, we wouldn't have much of a funny moment or a funny story if it wasn't kind of like that. Because his face when he's caught is just hilarious.
But he goes into full politician mode, and he does the Nixon peace signs. But I mean that's a straight nod to Nixon doing that. There's no doubt in my mind that's what that was when he did the peace signs.
Nixon the Antichrist, I'm telling you.
But when he got caught, he's stunned for a second, but he goes straight into a spiel about how they're going to go off, and then the Inquirer guy who's already paid his driver, that guy gets bought off easily.
Oh my God, that's a funny thing I want to bring up too, because that guy probably paid him maybe $50, if not $100,
to spill
something really cheap to pay him to get that information. And then at the very end, when after they get out of the club, if you will, because I don't want to spoil it just yet in our conversation, and he's like, "Meet me at such and such," and he's like, "Buddy, not for $1 million." I'm sitting there going, but you took
only $100 earlier
just to give information from another guy. You're telling me that you wouldn't take $1 million if you were offered? Okay.
Apparently, that's how ugly Gene Hackman. Well, we'll get into that.
Wow, Josh, that was mean.
that's how it's supposed to play. That's how it's supposed to play. But
Gene
Gene
Hackman
Hackman
look like B. Arthur though in drag.
Well, you know what? I didn't think that at all. Chris, you're going to laugh at this.
Okay, already.
Chris, who did you think it looked like? Let's get Chris. Did you have someone? Did you think B. Arthur?
Yeah, and you know why? Because
the hair.
The Golden Globes one year when Gene Hackman was the Cecil B. DeMille.
Okay.
Yeah, for that. Robin Williams was the introduction guy for that award. And he even sat there and go, who knew that Gene Hackman looked like B. Arthur in drag for the birthday? And I was like, oh, that's it. And he does look like B. Arthur. And that just stayed with me ever since.
Okay. Well, see, obviously I haven't seen that, so I didn't know. No, for some reason, and I don't know why, when I first saw it, I went, Why does he look like Phyllis Diller in the Boneyard?
Really? Well, for one, she didn't have that much hair in that movie.
Well, I can't. I guess in my mind she did because I've only watched it with you one time, and I don't
Are you
remember.
talking about Mrs. Poopinplatz?
Yes, this is
Yes.
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 You have to say the name. That's our rule. You have to say the name. Cause
That's right.
It's
She
just
played
hilarious.
Mrs. Poopin'. That for some reason that's where my mind went.
That's
But
another
all right.
one we gotta talk about at some point.
Oh, good lord, the Boneyard.
Yes.
All
If
right.
you haven't seen it, folks, check it out. It's definitely different, unique, funny, horror. Yeah.
Yeah, we still need to fulfill our fantasy of going to a restaurant and telling them, like, when they ask for the last name, like Poopinplatz, party of 3. Just have them read it out loud over the intercom.
I could have swore we did that at least once.
No.
We never did?
We always
I know-
talked about it.
I know we talked about it. I don't think we ever did it though.
No, we never had the courage to just go ahead and be like, what's the name? Poopinplatz.
Poopinplatz.
How do you spell that?
It's French.
Yeah. For some reason I thought we did, but okay. I definitely trust your memory better than mine.
Or
But
kind
anyway.
of related to the Birdcage, it could be like, oh yes, it's Poopinplatz in Charlotte, but it's Pouplay in France and Pouplala in Greece and Italy. But we never really know where we are until we hear our name. Oh!
All right, yep, it's time. Let's talk about this dinner party.
Yeah.
So first, obviously, Val's real mom, played by Christine Baranski. I want to make sure I said her last name right. She can't make it. She was close, but then she ended up in traffic. So they have to raise the bridge to let the boats go by every so often, and she's right there. She's first in line to get across. She just missed it. That would piss me off so bad.
Small little sailboat going.
Yeah, for that little tiny ass sailboat has to pass through.
That would piss me off. Yes, but so she's late. So they start. First of all, I want to say, where is this little room they're sitting to have dinner? Because there just doesn't look like a room you would eat dinner in. Like when they go sit down in these chairs, I don't know if the table just looked low to me. It just didn't look like a room you would sit and have a dinner. I thought they were just going to sit there and talk at first.
Well, that's the thing. Like I think that was just the, how would you put it? Maybe like the living space, I guess you could say. But it can get kind of confusing to also look like it was the dining room to some, because then suddenly they're in that room, where it's the bigger table, and it's like, oh, there's the plates. The plates with certain design on them. So, but it definitely, oh my god, the way they changed that apartment up within 5 hours compared to what it was before, like they took away all the brightness, if you will, all the life in the apartment, and suddenly turned it into a.
I mean, it looked like a monastery, like Armand said. It looked like a monastery.
Just added a crucifix. Put up a crucifix.
The big old crucifix and lots of drapery, to cut off the porch and all that stuff they had. Yeah, oh my god. And poor Armand in that suit.
Oh, he's sweating through that suit. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, down in some place like Miami, yeah, I'd be wearing a linen suit.
Something, I don't know. I would probably wear next to nothing.
Some gauzy clothes.
I'll wear the thongs. How about that?
I would wear shorts and short sleeves to a damn business meeting if I had to live in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you'd catch me in a suit down there. Hell, I don't wear a suit here.
Hell no.
I have to get a suit though because I'm going to that wedding in Mexico. I have to get a suit, and I'm not
Understandable.
looking forward to that.
Understandable.
It's going to be like September in Mexico. It's going to be hot as shit, I think. So, maybe I should get a gauzy suit.
It'll be warm. It'll be warm.
Pray for me.
Oh man.
Right. So they say that the mother's not going to show up, and I'm guessing, I don't know, does Albert hear this? Has he been up there getting ready this whole time? What do we think about when he comes down as the mom?
I think he's probably heard it.
Heard when he says she's going to be late, and he decides to. Well, I can take care of this.
Yeah, because the other thing too is it kind of explains like that scream they heard a little bit earlier, and he's like,
right,
"Oh, that's our dog." So,
but piranha.
Yeah. So I think that he just kind of knew, well, I'm going to do what I do best, and that's one, being a performer, and two, I'm good at being in drag, and I can pull this off. So
he does.
He did. He pulled off a very conservative look, a very conservative motherly look.
What is it? Kevin Keeley says he's like Mrs. Coleman. She cries when she hears her own name. They don't make women like that anymore. It breaks my heart.
She's just so vulnerable.
And Louise just looking at him like,
I know she didn't have this kind of compassion for poor Mrs. Jackson.
Yeah, right.
He's like, poor Mrs. Jackson is
a
sympathetic cow or something like that.
Unsympathetic cow or something.
Oh yes, they delayed it. This particular part is hilarious, and I love the fact that Kevin Keeley basically falls in love with her. She's just a small town girl who comes up with this man from Greece or whatever.
Yeah,
they keep calling him a cultural attaché or something like that.
Which I still don't even know what the fuck that even is, but.
Well, I just go with Louise. Like, it's sort of a diplomatic post.
Let's educate the children.
Well, it's sort of a diplomatic post. Isn't that right, Barbara?
Right. Any other things you guys want to bring up at this dinner scene before we get to the very end?
Oh my god. Anything, because there was so much. Like, I like the steady progression that it goes, because it starts from being something kind of awkward into just snowballing into something that crashes and burns pretty quickly. But I love everything in between. Like, I love when Albert shows up, and then like the way that him and Kevin like suddenly develop this bond. Like, you tell Kevin is just infatuated with him. So at that point, I love when they're kind of like talking about some of the hot button issues, including gays in the military. And then you got Albert going like, "Oh, gays in the military, that's another one too." I thought the same thing. That was until I heard that Alexander the Great was a fag. And I was like, damn. And then he's like, and Armand's going around going, "More ice for you." And
talking about abortion
like,
and stuff too.
Yeah. And he loves the ice. And then I love too where they go to sit down at the table. There's the bowls with the Greek boys on them. And they're like, looks like Greek boys playing leapfrog. He's like, "Oh, and girls, I got a girl on mine." He's like, "Oh, Mrs. Coleman, I know that's not a girl. I definitely know when I see a boy."
Yeah, he said, "I may not have my glasses, but you haven't seen a boy in a long time. I know a boy when I see one."
And then them dancing and singing the piano.
Oh, yeah.
That was funny.
Danced all night.
Yep. And dance all night. And they're like,
yeah, that was one of the
Agador Spartacus.
Yeah, one of the funniest things to me is that somehow Agador is, I don't know, 30-something years old, and he's never worn shoes. Like, he puts on shoes for the first time and can't walk.
Like, I don't wear shoes because they make me fall. Yeah.
Oh, probably in his villages in Guatemala that he grew up in, they never wore shoes. And then, of course, he moved to South Beach, where he basically lives on the coast, so he doesn't have to wear shoes to walk around there. So,
oh, but I love to, like, towards the beginning where he had made, like, and this is a weird thing. He knew how to make Turkish coffee, but he didn't know how to make a dinner at all. So I love, like, where he's sitting there at the beginning where he's... He gives it to Armand, and Armand's like, "Oh, what is this, sludge?" He's like, "Yes, I thought I'd make a change than the usual and just make sludge." And then
Albert comes in. This is delicious Turkish coffee.
yeah. And how do you? And also, it goes to show you how people know that family. I think because you see like how
Oh, yeah, Albert's
Albert
going
was
the
able to
street.
just walk the street and
They're
everyone knows who Albert
everybody's
is.
saying hi to him, and he knows
So-
everybody there.
Going back to that real quick, my only issue with that scene is Albert comes home, Val is sleeping. He gets up, does all this shopping, come back, and Val's still sleeping. I'm like, good Lord, how much are you sleeping, dude?
Well, I don't know. I tell you one thing. I was like, I'm surprised they're up that early, considering how late the club closes.
That's why I'm wondering what time it is, because Albert came in super late, and I don't know what time he's doing. I know it's before noon because he says the rest of the groceries will be delivered at noon.
Mm-hmm. And then he was also like, "Good morning" to everybody on that street. So I bet it was pretty early.
Here's a little piece of trivia, though.
Mhm.
The outside of the Birdcage, the exterior of it, is the Carlisle Hotel, which was also used as the exterior for the Golden Palace.
No way! Is
Yeah.
it that? It does look familiar now. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Hence, B. Arthur and drag.
See, we come full circle.
Oh my god! Full circle. Yes. That was
All right, yeah.
hilarious.
So, well, you know what? You've teased it enough. We're going to get to it. So, of course, at the end, the mom, Catherine, ends up showing up. Christine Baranski.
And the whole
shows
scheme falls apart.
The scheme falls apart. And this is part of my other problem with the character. And it's not just this movie. They do it a lot. The character of Val. He gets to do one redeeming thing and all is forgiven. Because now he accepts. I'm like, no, you've been an asshole this whole movie. I don't forgive you yet. You've got to do better. You've got to do more. But he obviously takes off the wig of Albert and says, no, this is my mother. He acknowledges as his mother. Because there's been this whole thing throughout where it seems like Armand almost doesn't want to share Val with Albert. Like even the white wine thing, he was going to meet. He was just going to meet his son. But he wouldn't tell Albert about it. And so it made Albert think he was going to meet another man.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just his son because he doesn't seem to want to share him with him.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny because even Val's like, he had made it clear to Armand that, hey, I need to tell you something. I need to meet with you, but it's got to be you in private. Don't tell Albert. Because he knew that if he told Albert that, oh, I'm getting married, Albert was going to throw a fit. So I think he just knew, like, if I tell Dad about it, then maybe Dad can break it to Albert easily for me. And I think that's where he was coming from.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Just don't, like, if Armand's so comfortable living with Albert in this lifestyle, what is it with him and Val? Like, why is it he doesn't seem to want him to share that experience? I don't know. I don't know how to put it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think if anything, Albert was just, you know, like any parent as well, just showing how much he loved Val, and you know, he was going to do everything he could in order to make Val's night perfect for this family, and that's understandable. It just shows a lot of love between the family. They were willing to sacrifice this one night, you know, to make things perfect as they could for Val, because it meant so much to their kid. And I'm sure you know, as a parent, there's a lot, like, if you thought of yourself in a position like what you would do for your kid, you know, you probably would do just about anything for them.
Oh, yeah, I have no doubt about that. I understand why he goes through with it, even though Val's kind of shitty for growing up with that. His whole life, like, it's his whole life. It's not like he lived some other life most of his life.
Yeah, and he told Barbara about it, so I just think that for their perspective, they were just thinking, oh my God, her parents would never accept it if they just knew from the start.
And you know what? I almost kind of wish we got a short scene with Barbara telling him, hey, you might want to think about doing this. That way it's not just all on Val. he had some influence from Barbara saying, "Look, my parents are like this. You might want to think about doing this if we're going to meet to make them to win them over."
Well,
if they
and
get that,
they've only been dating for what, like a year, is what he said, or something, or what she said
probably.
to her parents, I think. So I'm sitting there going, like, what's the matter? You couldn't wait to get married? Just wait a little bit longer so that way you can properly explain things to your parents that this is his living situation, this is his family. You know, and when you're 18, they ain't going to stop you from marrying him anyway. You can do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Just wait till you're 18. Because, yeah, we learned that this character, Gene Hackman's character, like, obviously he's going to be against you if you're gay. He's going to be against you if you're a different color, with the way he describes the girl, with the Jackson case. Like, yes. I mean, he can't handle that.
Yeah, Gene Hackman was great at playing. Like, he definitely played the typical Republican political character. Like, he just, I don't know, he just had that right form of character for the role.
Right-wing mentality, if you will.
Yeah. And I love, too, that his vice was that when shit went wrong, he has to eat chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's chocolate wrappings everywhere.
And also, he can't even handle... I mean, we talked about the names getting confused. The whole thing is their name's Goldman, they're Jewish, and he wouldn't even be approving of that.
Yep.
Which is why they had to change it to Coleman. And then trying to keep everybody in line on what it is a difficult thing to do.
It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Goldman. Oh, I thought it was Mrs. Coleman. We did have a little confusion about the whole thing, too. It was like, oh, and such is pronounced blah, 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 and so forth. Yeah. So that was pretty funny. Oh man, there's so much that I think all of us could say what we like, especially certain parts. Like, I feel like as we're going along, I'm thinking of new things to talk about in terms of parts of the movie. Because I'm like, I don't want to forget anything, but everything was just so good from beginning to end.
Yeah, and right before they get out, I forgot exactly how Kevin words it, but he's like, we got this going on. He tells Barbara she needs to stop being selfish. And I was like,
oh my God, yeah.
You're a dick.
And how like Louise too was like, somebody's gotta love me too.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, honestly, in this short scene we get at this dinner party, he shows more love towards Albie as the mom, Mrs. Coleman, than he ever does towards his wife. Yeah, right.
More sympathetic to poor Mrs. Coleman.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love too how like Louise always finds one of the great things about Diane Weist in this, and it's just like it's something small, but it adds humor to her character, and that's of course her being overly optimistic. So she will find any silver lining to sit there and say to Kevin that, oh, but this is great because ... So I love when, like, even if it's an awkward moment, she'll find something to compliment on, or, you know, just something to be like, oh, this is wonderful. So I love one of the first things she does is when she comes into the apartment and she sees the books, and she's like, oh, you got the entire Nancy Drew mystery series. So I'm like, yes, conservative Republican has the whole Nancy Drew
attaché
series.
degrees.
Yeah, attaché degrees has the whole Nancy Drew series. So I'm like, man, because obviously they had like the whole drag queen crew that works at the club come and decorate the apartment. Mm-hmm. So that I'm like, yeah, so one of them slipped in the Nancy Drew series.
Well, I think it had come with the moose head they originally had, I think, is where it came from. Because they were going to put a moose head up.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
And then also put in Playboy magazines in the bathroom. And he's like, where did this come from? I was like, this is what they read. Don't add. Subtract.
Right. But yeah, so now Kevin gives the speech. Now it's time to get out the club. And he's like, well, can't they just slip out at the end with the last big number And of course they're like, no. And then of course Albie has the brilliant idea. Oh, we can have different looks, because there's this whole thing of even Agador likes to steal all his wigs that he has, because he has so many good wigs. And this is where we get another "We Are Family" scene, because that's their big number at the Birdcage.
Yep, it's where they get everyone together on stage and have the audience participation. So everyone is family. And
this is where we get Gene Hackman as a not quite so pretty woman. Sorry.
Sorry. Josh, you thought it was sexy.
No. I cannot agree with that one, Chris.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was good, too. All those press people all in that club, and then Robin's going around bringing all his talent. He's like, y'all need to get up on the stage. We got a big thing that's going to happen. We need you to get all the audience up and dancing as well. Get all the bodies going so that they can slip on through.
I like that Diane Weist, Louise's character. She's like some guy, supposed to be a guy who's into like S&M type stuff. Bondage, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I never danced with a man before. Well, there's always a first time.
And then I do love that Gene Hackman's like almost offended that no one wants to dance with him as a woman.
Yeah, because he said, "There's like, I told him not to put me in white. It makes me look fat," or something like that.
So, do you think, how sometimes, like, when you do the drag, you're dressing up as a famous person? Is he supposed to be Marilyn Monroe in this white dress with this big blonde wig? Is he supposed to be anyone?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think they just dress him up as, hey, he's just another queen, and just like a lot of people are dressed, a lot of queens are dressed up in there. Even some who are not even working for the club, some people are dressed up. So I think they just knew, like, we put him in drag, we probably have a better chance of slipping him through rather than him obviously dressing as himself.
Yeah, and it works. They all get through and they slip out going right past all the press people.
Because I'm surprised that, well, except for that camera guy at the end, I think the camera guy knew for sure.
He kind of the way he turns and looks, it kind of seems like he knew.
But I am surprised that none of the press people figured it out. Like, really? Come on.
Maybe that camera guy was a friend of Dorothy's.
Maybe too. Maybe he is part of the family. But, still, I'm kind of surprised that all those press people, they didn't still think about it or see anything. But on the other hand, they weren't looking for a Senator Keeley in drag. They just were looking for Senator Keeley, period.
Right.
So they were really focused on the guy rather than him in a dress and in a wig and in makeup.
Right.
Well, it'd be the last thing you would expect from a conservative senator, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's true. And that's another thing with his character. This is kind of like the only thing he does that changes it to where, now he's a good person because he's overcome.
Yeah.
And
the thing, like, even when everything foiled and now they're stuck in the apartment, then it's like even his guard kind of, I think, fell, because he was able to sit there and relax.
Right.
And just for them to really conversate with one another. So,
yeah. True. And when the whole thing falls apart at the end, I did think it's funny. You had referenced earlier where she's like, he's a man. And the only thing he can say is, "You're Jewish?"
And that was too, like, and then everyone rallied for him, to help him and to get him out of there. So it should have, and hopefully, been a kind of transformative experience for him.
And that's the thing. I guess we're just supposed to take that it was. We don't know because we don't get that. I mean, we get to the wedding.
Yeah.
They get out. They get in the car. He does the whole meet me at Palm and whatever. Not for $1 million, lady. Yeah.
Like, damn, you would forgive $1 million for maybe a one-time thing? Crazy. But he must have got fired.
Oh, had to. Like, it makes you wonder with him still saying that, "Meet me at this" as the driver. He probably still wasn't picking up that this guy was selling him out.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know.
Oh, and then, the crazy thing I just was thinking, speaking of the driver, they drove all the way from, oh my God,
Ohio, somewhere in Ohio.
all the way down to Miami, basically. And then she was like, why can't we take a plane? And he's like, no, because then press would be all over that or something. I'm like, that's a long trip from driving from Ohio to.
Oh, they also
I
had
know there's a lot of people that do
driver.
it too, but still,
Well,
that's a long drive.
And you remember at one point they showed the driver sleeping and Gene Hackman's driving himself
Yeah.
going, so to make sure they don't stop. So they're switching out to get this trip done because that's a long trip from where we're at, and Ohio's even further up. So
Exactly.
I don't know that they're getting there that night by 6 o'clock unless they leave at like 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe. I don't know. Like it's going to take a while.
Oh my God. Yeah, because I mean, just even like we live here in Charlotte, me and Chad, and I think it's like
where we live.
I think it's like 8 hours to get just to even Orlando.
Yeah, it's like an 8-hour drive just to Orlando. And it's like another, I don't forget how many hours it is.
I know, just to get to Miami.
I would think another 4 or 5.
I think it's about that. I think it's about 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. So you know what? F that. But we drove from here to Chicago. That was like what, a 13-hour drive, something like that.
Yeah, I guess so.
It was long.
We went to,
and hell, even from here to New Orleans is like a hell of a drive.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't know why, but I felt like that one was the worst drive. But anyway, I digress.
So yeah,
I've learned that when you're driving from New Orleans to here or vice versa, travel through the night. That's the best time to do it. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
I can see that being the case. But yeah, they get out. Then we cut to they're all in the wedding, and then you get people in the crowd. Like
Dole is gorgeous.
And then you get the old
Bob Dole's gorgeous.
And then the old conservative, like, which one's the mother? I just don't know.
I don't know.
And
they kiss the bride. Oh.
Yeah. Yes, Albie cannot contain himself, crying all over the place. All right, and that's going to wrap
that
up.
Would be Josh too when his kids get married.
No, I don't think so. I think I'm going to disappoint you if you think that.
When your girls get married, yeah.
I think I'm going to disappoint a lot of people in that one then.
Josh has no sympathy, especially for Mrs. Coleman.
I definitely would not. I would definitely not be the poor Mrs. Coleman. She's just a small town girl. She's just so vulnerable. No, I'm not. Oh. All right, so that's the end.
Speaking of which, before you do that, the one scene, one thing that popped in my head, the dinner scene. No, was it the dinner? I think it was. Where she's saying like, "Oh, this is what I love: a big happy family getting together for dinner. Everyone is at home and speaking English." That's the great thing about Nathan Lane. He brought up all those things that, socially, a lot of the conservatives
would say,
yeah. It was so perfect. Such great comedy, yeah.
Yeah, great writing from Elaine May. We should say that. Great writing from Elaine May.
Yeah, it's funny because,
Absolutely.
in the, almost 30 years that the movie's been out, you could tell conservatives still have the same fucking talking points.
Yeah.
All these decades later.
Which is pretty sad, but yes.
Yeah.
But that's the end of the actual movie. So before we get into our ratings, let's go to what our listeners thought.
Woo!
Listener comment.
Mail, motherfucker!
Alright, so first we'll start off with, this is a new one. It's almost Garbage Pod, but it's got a T in the middle. Garbage Pod. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong.
Garbage Tea Pod.
Well, no, it's got a T in the middle of the word garbage. That's why it's garbage. So if I'm saying that wrong, sorry. But they say, can't
say it Canadian style. Sorry.
They say, I can't wait for this one. So many stellar performances in this movie. But the thing I always picture is Hank Azaria wearing shoes for the first time and falling flat on his face coming out of the kitchen.
That was hilarious.
Really? You don't think about the part where Agador's wearing the thongs on the porch and singing...
Cleaning the pool.
singing
Well, we know what Chris thinks about first. Anyway.
I mean, hey, Hank Azaria had a good-looking body in that movie, I have to say.
He did. He did.
This is a new one, and if I say this last name wrong, sorry. Trish Wurzin. Wurzin? Yeah, says
10 lashes, Josh, for mispronouncing that name.
Well, sorry, Trish. Says, oh yeah, one of our favorite movies in this house. We know every word.
I feel you.
Same.
And then
Same.
10 Cent takes us, okay, but this is very important content for Pride Month.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. I mean, it is. I mean, it's a comedy movie, but there are some very, important messages in the movie
and relevant topics that are still even around today.
Yep.
But someone you were talking with earlier, Chris, Wiz from Capital Games says, it's funny, we reviewed this movie on our podcast, which will be up soon. Might be up by the time you hear this. So, great movie, but I absolutely couldn't fucking stand the sun in this movie. So there we go.
There we go.
I think everyone can say they were irritated with Val.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy, especially looking at it now through an adult lens. Yeah, it's kind of...
Well, and then especially nowadays, because again, socially things are a little different. But
that's true too.
However, on the other hand, we wouldn't also have a story if we didn't have some of the messiness.
That's true. That's fair. I mean, you're right. That is what the story is based around. So you got to get there somehow. So my biggest problem is that he does the one little thing at the end, and then all is forgiven. And I'm like, not enough. Not enough.
Josh holds a grudge. Val is not forgiven. Not right now.
Josh is related to one of them Hatfields. Hatfields and McCoys.
Exactly. I'll hold this for years, generations to come. I'll pass this down the lineage. Do not forgive Val.
I have to say, that's one thing us mountain men and low country men do well. We hold grudges really well.
Oh, man. Crazy.
That and holding a grudge.
Chuck from the Chuck and Ruck Go to the Movies podcast says, this is such a funny movie. I remember my mom letting me watch this movie at an inappropriate age, but I fell in love with it instantly. It has become one of those funny, feel-good movies I turn to when I need a laugh or 1,000 laughs. So, Chris, I think you can attest to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead and say, Chris. I watched this movie and I turned gay.
I'm at the 1,000 laughs, Chad. He talked about how he
Thank
can
you,
laugh at
Blanche.
The In Film We Trust podcast says, not seen it in years, but remember loving it. It's one of those rare movies where Robin Williams, for the most part, gives one of the most restrained performances. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it's like you said, too, he plays the straight man in this in a way, and...
That's
I know, right? No pun intended. And so... But it's still funny still Robin Williams comedic funny, if that makes sense. So he does a superb job in this one. And he definitely lets his other castmates shine very well in this one.
I agree. Big Nick from the Gag on this podcast, he just does a quote, well, one does need a bit of color. Which, of course, that's the scene where
yes,
Albie's trying to be the uncle and has the, purple socks. I don't know.
Pink. They were pink.
They were pink socks. You're right.
And they weren't just pink. They were pink.
They were pink.
Okay. So this one, you guys, I don't know, you're going to might have to help me with this. Scott from Shoot the Flick, he says, I always used to get this and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels mixed up, but both are very good movies. Now, I've never seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, so I don't know if this is a movie to mix it up with.
I don't... I actually have the movie, but I have not seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
So, I can't comment on that one, Scott.
Waste of money, Chris.
I can't say that. I have a ton of movies that I haven't watched.
I haven't watched it yet.
Sean, who you recently heard on my 7 episode, he says, pretty funny movie, and Hank Azaria was really good in a supporting role. And he put a gif of the whole Robin Williams men smear.
Yeah. Hank Azaria was amazing in this movie. There's no question about it.
Justin, who sometimes does guest hosting on the Film Effect podcast, says, I've never watched the whole thing. I'm not a big fan of farces, so I think that's why I never got into it. My wife puts it on occasionally, and I'll half watch and read at the same time. From what I've seen, it seems okay. And I'll say, Justin, go ahead and give it a listen. It's worth it, well worth your time. I definitely think you'll come away laughing and give it your full attention.
And this is coming from a fellow straight man.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Absolutely. And of course, Ed from Film Effect. Me, Ed, and Justin have had this thing going on with Exorcist 2. And he's like, I mean, it's no Exorcist 2. Because Justin really loves Exorcist 2.
Okay, yeah, that was fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that GIF on there too on Twitter.
Yeah, where he said nothing is and put the gift in front. Yeah. Yeah, he sidebar for whatever reason, but he recently watched Exorcist 3 and didn't like it. And he
oh my god, crushed my heart. Okay.
Yeah, that's what me and Ed were saying. Like, what? Wait a minute, because he rated it, I think, 1.5 stars on Letterboxd or something.
Boo.
Yeah.
Boo.
And then we went. So we've been on this thing for Exorcist 2, probably for a month now, where we talk about this.
That explains a lot, but I was like, wait,
Yes,
how did Exorcist 2 come into the Birdcage? Yeah.
That's why I figured I'd put that.
I just still thought it was funny.
That's why I figured I'd put that in there so you guys understood why that was there, because I know you looked through the stuff, Chris. Back to the Birdcage. Ugh. Darren from the Nostalgia Cast says, this movie is such a joy, so good-natured and funny. Williams taking a backseat to Lane and Azaria, who steals every scene that he's in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, like I said, he had his co-stars who let him shine, but Robin Williams also shined really well. And like them as a couple, him and Nathan Lane in this movie, were brilliant together. They just you really felt like they had an honest, genuine relationship connection. Like they, like they were just meant to be or something. It was so good. It was believable.
So 10 Cent Takes responds. They had quote tweeted it, now they responded, and this is interesting because they say Val and Barbara are the true villains of the film. Discuss. And then they put up a gif of oh my god, the Mike Myers character, Chris.
Oh yeah, Linda Richmond.
Linda Richmond, thank you. Goodness, like appealing a bit for Clem. That one, yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've already talked about Val.
I love that. What was it? They're the true antagonists of the film, right? True villains of the film, and it's like, and then that gift shows up, and it's like, talk amongst yourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was good. I like that comment, guys. That was good.
I've already made it clear my thoughts on Val and Chad. I think you were gone when I said to Chris. I said I wish there was, like, for Val growing up in this family, I wish there was like a scene of Barbara saying, "Hey, my family's like this. If we're gonna do this, you probably need to say something," because I feel like she had to have a hand in this. So I get what they're saying with the Val and Barbara both the
I think they both did. Like, I think Val had his apprehensions too. I think he was just like, "Oh shit, he's a senator. I need to change my family's outlook too," or well, not want to say change their outlook. That's not the right word, but change the aesthetic, if you will, in order to try to please these in-laws.
Yeah, so I think we agree. And then Wiz from that Capital Games game, he jumps back in. Yo, I fucking hated Val so much in this movie. See, we're on the same level. He's like, it's crazy seeing this in today's eyes. When I saw it in '96, I thought nothing of it. He was 13 at the time too, Chris. So there you go.
Right.
Around the same age, yeah. It's like, it was hard for me to sympathize with the character that straight up asked a father who loves him to basically hide who he is.
Yeah, because you know what? I think even what was a really touching scene in a way, as the viewer, was that part where he was like, "Pop, it's not just this thing that's got to change, it's everything." And he's like pointing to the Neptune statue. He points to the painting on the wall. He's like, "The Kirby, that's art." And then the little statue that had, the erection there, and he turns it around, and then he wipes his fingers on his dad's cheek, and then wipes it on the wall. Obviously,
I'd have smacked him for doing that.
that his dad wears foundation, and his dad's like, yes, I wear foundation, and yes, I live with a man, and yes, I'm a middle-aged fag, but it took me 30 years to be honest with myself, basically, is what he was saying.
Right.
That was, that was really, I don't know, to me, that was a really powerful moment.
No, I agree. I would have probably
See?
smacked Val if he wiped my face and wiped it on my wall. I'm like, you ass.
And messed up my makeup. But for real, I was like, shit, that's really good, because he worked really hard to be where he's at. There's no question about it.
All right, so Jen S says, your money's on the dresser, chocolate.
Yes.
She also adds, Gene Hackman climbing out the window to avoid the press, getting caught, and nonchalantly answering questions like he planned it was peak Hackman.
Going back to that one comment, too, about the money's on the dresser chocolate.
Yeah, this is the same person.
I want to sit there and say, well, I thought he looked kind of funny, but I didn't say anything.
Yep. All right, Richie and West says, a movie about a flamboyant gay couple forced to hide their sexuality and Jewish heritage to appease a conservative senator. Queer stereotypes serve as a satire of heteronormative standards. A brilliant take on political morality that's still relevant. A-plus performances. Iconic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Because it's still something that, unfortunately, is a big thing today as well. It's amazing how some things have never changed, but yet, things have also changed dramatically too since 1996. So it's pretty crazy.
Yep. The nerdy photographer says, so many great performances, and puts up a gif of Robin Williams doing the Fosse, Fosse, Fosse.
Great scene. Love it. Fosse, Fosse, Fosse. Martha Graham. Michael Kidd. That was Josh's favorite dance right there. You know that.
Wayne from the Recasted podcast says, I love the Birdcage. Though they do play to stereotypes for a few laughs a couple of times, any role that Robin Williams portrays is full of warmth and heart. Nathan Lane was fantastic, but I think my favorite character was Hank Azaria as Agador.
Yeah. Hey, God bless Agador. He was so good, and Josh, you were right. Like every scene that he was in, he was memorable.
Yep.
Talk about someone that knew how to play their role with whatever screen time they have, and still leave a mark on your mind. You can still sit there and remember so many scenes with his character. So
right.
Good.
Which I think my favorite was when he's supposed to be, he's in the shoes, he's trying to be the normal straight butler, and they're doing the song, and he just busts through the door and starts singing it with
one of my favorite ones too is from the beginning, where he's singing Gloria Estefan.
Yes, yeah.
And he's got one of the big wigs, the great wigs and stuff like that. And then Robin's like, where are you supposed to be? And he's like, oh, I'm a combination of Lucy and Ricky.
Right.
And then he's like, well, it's terrifying. And then Chad, I think one of his favorite ones too, was like, why don't you let me go on the stage? He's like, where are you afraid of my Guatemalaness? And he's like, what? My Guatemalaness, my natural heat. Is that right, Chad? Would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's your favorite?
Well, one of my favorites.
Okay. Sissy.
That's why I always tell people they're afraid of my natural heat.
Okay. I think I have heard you say that. Now I know where it's from.
My Guatemalaness.
I'm like the deadly Jimson weed. I can entice with my scent, but provide no suckle.
All right. Sissy J says, this has always been a favorite of mine. Nathan Lane and Robin Williams just had great chemistry in this film. And Gene Hackman,
yes.
Dang. Especially when they were sneaking out at the end. Overall, just a good laugh fest. Yep, yeah. I have to agree.
Indeed. That's pretty much sums up the movie.
The Reels of Justice podcast says, terrific movie. Make sure to watch Blockage Off Old 2 if you can. So we talked about that. We haven't seen that. So
I want to. I do want to see the whole thing.
My buddy Pete from Middle Class Film Class says, I never get tired of the Birdcage. It's having fun with the gay community without making fun of it. This is what I think of when I think Hank Azaria. Robin Williams is strong, but it's the Nathan Lane show all day. Also, the copter opening shot is unnecessarily good. And that was the shot you were
It
talking about.
is.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that opening shot. Yeah, it's really good. It reminds me of like the I Know What You Did Last Summer opening shot where it's coming in off the coast.
Oh. Well, I feel like too that opening it starts to get you in the mood for the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and that whole tape puts you into that whole world there, and you're in for a great comedy fest, and that's going to hit on some heavy topics, of course, but it's not going to be overwhelming in that regard. You're going to, I don't know, you just enjoy the ride with all the characters, all of them. You know, even from like they were both politically extreme, if you will, but somehow they just meshed really well in this story.
Marie in Connecticut responded to Pete just saying, agreed on all counts. Loved the opening shot, and Nathan Lane was hilarious. The Straight Outta Context podcast, or I guess there's a podcast, Straight Outta Context, I'm not sure if they're a podcast, says, the Pirin tablets. Of course, we talked about that.
Well, Chad doesn't know how he gets by, too, at work without his Pirin tablets.
Yeah.
That's what you use, Chad? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. One before and one after,
There
but no more.
No more. Don't ever do it. That's right. Oh, Trish Worsen responded again, saying, one of our favorite movies. It's just pure heart. Shows that family is what you make it, and you just have to be yourself.
That's
you
right.
laugh, and we are all human. Love is love, and shame dies when we open our hearts and really see each other. Well put,
Amen.
Trish.
Amen.
Yep, very well put. Well, my buddy Carlo from the Movie Loot says, haven't seen this since the 90s, but I remember enjoying it, especially Williams' performance. I did see the original, La Cage aux Folles, last year and had fun with it as well. And threw in his, I guess he gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd, so threw in his review. If you want to go read that, check out our Twitter page.
Well, wait, he said he hasn't seen it since the 90s?
Yeah, he hasn't went back and watched this one since the 90s, so Carlo, I definitely suggest you go give it a rewatch.
Yes, definitely, because, oh man, if you see it now compared to the 90s, your viewpoint will probably be very different.
Yeah, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. Definitely do that.
Yeah.
Kelly Madden from the Drunk Theory podcast says, I've actually never seen it all the way through. I'm adding it to my watch list now. Yep.
Do it. Watch it now.
Pete responded to her saying, it never fails to cheer me up. Which, hey, I can see that. All right. Our buddy Peter. I love getting him in. He's always got something good to say. Although the one time Chad responded, wow, Pete. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was, but I remember Chad doing that.
Yep.
But
it's a Golden Girls reference, too.
Okay. But Peter says, I love Mike Nichols and Elaine May from back to their stand-up comedy days, so seeing them work together is great. Williams' role is...
Yeah. I was going to say, Mike Nichols, got to give him a lot of credit, too. Great director. Yeah. He did a lot of well-known movies.
You're right. We didn't talk about that at all.
Yeah. We got to give him his credit.
That's true.
Due. Yeah.
Williams' role is interesting because for once he's the straight man, pun intended, to his co-star, a hilarious Lane.
I feel like, too, this is a movie that really, I think, was a star maker for Nathan Lane. Because I cannot recall ever really seeing Nathan Lane before this movie, even as a kid.
No,
so if it wasn't for the Birdcage, I would not have known Nathan Lane. And this one was... I think, honestly,
knew his voice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true.
Lion King
and stuff, right? But really seeing him on the screen and his performances, like this was really a big one for him. So yeah.
Peter continues. He's talking about Robin Williams. He's usually more antic. He says a great snapshot of mainstream Hollywood's ideas of queerness in the mid '90s brings important questions of queer stories being told by straight folks. I still struggle with that as I watch the film. Still, Nichols, May, Williams, Lane, and a fab Christine Baranski are comedy geniuses.
Yeah.
He's one of the few who didn't bring up Hank Azaria. So I wonder, Peter, if you're listening, reach out and tell me, did you like Hank Azaria? I hope you still at least like Hank Azaria.
I'm sure. I mean, the thing is, like, I see where some people say, oh, this may make fun of stereotypes in a way, but then that's also making fun of stereotypes of conservatives too, right? The Republicans as well, and taking them to a kind of nth degree. But on the other hand, and I know this is probably going to sound I don't know if it's going to sound bad or anything, but stereotypes, they're out there, but I think this movie is not trying to hurt stereotype. Does that make sense? It's not trying to use that as like, this is the focus. Not at all. The focus is really around these people trying to be true to who they are and trying to bring a family together, you know?
No, that's very fair.
Because ultimately they care for their kids. They love their kids and they want to do what's right for their kids. So it shows a common bond.
Brooke says, brilliant film. Mike Nichols is in my top 3 favorite directors. His minimalist approach works so well with Williams and Lane being so active and fun in this film. Add Hackman and Weist on top of that, and it's pure genius.
It's chef's kiss.
There you go. Film Shake. Obviously, this is Nick from Film Shake Podcast. Says, my entire very conservative family watched this on vacation in 1997 right after it hit VHS. Everyone laughed their asses off. Very fun film. There you go. That's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those, it's a feel-good film, and, you know, maybe hopefully also change some people's minds as well, or change their hearts a little bit.
And then Ed from the Film Effect Podcast says, I saw this in the theater with my mom and grandmother back in 96. To this day, it's my favorite Robin Williams film. It never gets old, it still holds up today, and it's guaranteed to make you laugh throughout. A very faithful remake that in some elements I find to be even better. So I obviously can't comment on the remake status of it, but yeah, so that's everyone. As you mentioned earlier, Chris, got lots of comments, so thank you everyone for participating. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I just didn't know how, even myself, I didn't know how powerful of an outreach the film had and still holds today. So I mean, I know we only got like really the tip of the iceberg, if you ask me, but that's a lot of responses to.
Yeah. I mean, this is 2 good weeks in a row, because I'm not going to lie. I figured this one would get a pretty good response rate. Mm-hmm. I was surprised at how many responses we got to The Road last week. That was surprising for me, but yeah. I'm happy for it. I'm here for it. I love getting all the interaction with everyone. So we've gotten their thoughts. Now it's time for ours. I guess since I'm the only one that's seeing this for the first time, I'll go first and give my rating. So, obviously, when I rate on Letterboxd, I don't put a rating up at first, because in fact, I don't know if you saw this, but I always do my weekly. I do my weekly Letterboxd, what I watch and stuff.
Yeah.
And someone saw that I didn't rate the Birdcage, and they were
I saw that. Yeah, I thought the same thing too. I was like, wait, did he not put a rating there? Yeah.
Yeah, they were like 0 stars for the bird. I put a heart, but when you put the recent activity, it doesn't show the heart.
Oh,
so
I see.
The person's like 0 stars for the Birdcage, and I was like, no, I just don't rate them because we're going to be reviewing it on the show. It's definitely not a 0-star movie. So I'm going.
I'm hoping for the big one for you. I'm hoping you'll rate it a big fat 5. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, okay. I'm curious to see where you guys stand, because I checked to see where you guys had this on Letterboxd, and neither of you had it at 5. So I will challenge you both on that. I looked when I rated this, and you guys did not have it at 5.
Yeah,
you might have changed it. You might have updated it, but I'm going. You'll probably go 5s, and that's fine. I'm going with what you had it on Letterboxd, because yes, you're not supposed to like Val, but his redemption story isn't enough for me. I don't think Gene Hackman's redemption story is enough for me, so I'm not dropping it far. Don't get me wrong. I will watch this movie. I love this movie. This movie is hilarious. Chad, you were right. You'll be glad. You said I'd be glad you brought it to me. I am glad you brought it to me. So I gave this movie 4 stars. It's good, and maybe it'll go up as I watch it.
Not even 4.5.
You guys had it rated 4 on Letterboxd, so don't you come at me. Whoever, why don't you go next?
Oh, go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with four Purin tablets.
Oh, there you go. I didn't.
Oh,
This
Chad.
one.
You crazy boy.
Yep.
Just the Pure and tablets, Chad?
Mm-hmm.
4 is too many parent tablets, Chad. 1 before, 1 after.
I take 2 before and 2 after.
Oh, okay. You're well, never mind.
I'm a big boy.
Okay.
For me, I mean, and you'll see this updated on my Letterboxd. I give it 4 bird. I'm sorry, not 4. I give it 5 bird cages.
5 bird cages for the Birdcage?
For the Birdcage. Well, I mean, I could do different things. Like, it could be like 5, I don't know, 5 parrots out of 5. Or
Well, honestly,
5,
if I was to
or
do
5
that,
drag queens out of 5.
if I was to do that, I would probably just give it 4 Fossies. That was
There we
There you
go.
go.
oh,
5
look at you did that.
Madonnas, 5 Michael Kids. Or 5 wigs. The best wigs.
There you go.
All right.
Or or the gold toothbrush.
Oh goodness.
Los Copos.
Yep.
Or 5 palimonies.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. As Chris said, there was so much stuff we didn't even
There's
get
so
into.
much. Yeah. Oh my god.
But that's going to wrap it up. I'll just tell everyone coming next week, I will be taking the week off. Chad and Chris are taking over hosting duties. They will be having Alan and Will, the guys for the creators of the Pocus Hocus, I'm saying it right, comic,
Yes.
Yep,
coming back,
Pocus
talk
Hocus.
about their Kickstarter, and also we'll be discussing the somewhat recent Best Picture winner, Parasite. So you can look forward to these guys next week coming at you.
And poor Josh missing out again.
Yep. But that wraps it up. Guys, tell them everywhere where they can find you. Chad, you know what you're doing, so you can go first.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, the Tweety Box, and Letterboxd at Green Screen Grin.
Very simple, right? And also, don't forget to, when you see Chad or go to any of his social media pages, put #HotChad.
Your buddy Jeff did that one time.
I won't object to it.
That's right. And then for me, you can find me on Instagram at xtopher of Oz. And on Tweety, you can find me at CBC Monkey. And on Letterboxd, just go to Josh or Chad's page, and you can find me as one of their friends. Hey, it's Brand. It's Brand.
It's the opposite of brand, Chris. You don't know your brand.
You know, when you brought up the Hot Chad comment, it reminded me of a time when I was out in California and I was walking down I think I was walking down Geary Boulevard Geary Boulevard or Geary Street. I can't remember if it was Boulevard or Street. But anyway, I was walking and like this car of like 4 girls like stopped at this intersection, and these 2 girls poked their head out the window, and one of them yelled at me. They're like, "Hey, you're really hot."
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I was like, and I was looking around because I was like, "Is she looking at me or is she looking at the guy behind me? Like, what's going on?" And there was nobody behind me. I was like, what do I say in this instance?" It's so awkward. It was awkward as fuck, is what it was.
Well, Chad, you either
Never happened.
say
That was the only time in my life that ever happened.
you either just say thank you or you say I know. Whichever one.
That's right.
I went with the latter. I was like, "Oh yeah, okay."
That's all you said was okay. I honestly thought Chad was going to sit there and go, I know.
All right.
But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, where can they find you?
Yeah, as always, the best place is Twitter. That's where you'll get all the interactions. That's where you'll get the polls. We didn't mention we're not doing a poll for next month, so stay tuned on Twitter to see when the next poll is. I can't say for sure when that's going to be yet, but easiest thing to do, go to linktr.ee/YNF moviepod. It'll have social media, podcast platforms, my Letterboxd, the YouTube channel, all that good stuff.
Everything you need
That's
to
right.
find your
That's
way
right.
to Josh's heart.
All in one place there. All in one place. You can find me. And that'll wrap this one up. You'll come back next week and listen to these guys talk about Parasite. Until then, you guys take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
I'll come back, you hear?
Bim, 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 bim.